If you watched the WWE UK Championship tournament recently, you will know one thing. It was really great. Building wonderfully over the two-night event in Blackpool, the second day especially was just awesome, providing competition and storylines that were compelling, fascinating, and rewarding. No bad thing that. No bad thing at all. This, of course, leads us to what happens next, and as of these words spilling out of my mouth, no one really knows. That doesn't mean we can't query such things, which is why I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is 10 big questions about the future of WWE's UK brand. Number 10. Will Michael Cole stick around? Here's a fun fact for you. I don't mind Michael Cole. I think he's given an incredibly hard task each and every Monday night and does a good job in balancing the 4,890 things he's asked to do. I couldn't do it, and we know that because I tried. However, at the WWE UK Championship tournament, Cole was nothing short of brilliant. Teaming wonderfully with Nigel McGuinness, Raw's lead announcer had great knowledge, called the action at a level we don't often see, and just felt engaged and enthusiastic. It's a highlight of the show. So, given how well he did, will he be part of any future UK events? It seems likely McGuinness will, but Cole is not only US based, obviously, but has a billion things to do other than just commentating for Raw. After what we've seen, it would be a real shame if he didn't come back. Part of the furniture now. Number 9. Will UK stars have a role? When Neville strolled down to the ring during the UK tournament, it was badass. The man that Gravity forgot has been outstanding ever since his heel turn, and hearing him cut another scathing promo before beating Tommy End made the event feel more special. So, what does this mean for WWE's new UK show going forward? Will we see the likes of Neville, Noam Dar, Sheamus or Finn Balor, even though the latter two are from Ireland? That doesn't seem to matter in WWE land. Anyway, would they make special appearances or have a more regular role week to week? That seems unlikely given the crazy work schedule they already have, but it's an interesting thought. Ultimately, mixing new and old stars together is always your best bet. Helps bring people through the door, and then you can introduce them to the faces of tomorrow. Number 8. Where will the shows be held? The Empress Ballroom worked as the place to hold the UK title tournament. The venue that's drowning in history, it's also somewhere WWE has been before. Plus it looks lovely, and things looking lovely is good. It's unlikely they would run this all the time if a weekly TV show was commissioned, however. If WWE were in Blackpool all the time, some of the appeal would diminish, and most probably, the audience numbers too. That's just what happens when it's too easy to see something. You keep deciding to go next week instead, because you know it will still be there. Does this mean WWE goes on tour with the thing and heads out across the UK? That means increased costs, and you can't just add it to the end of Raw or SmackDown like they're currently doing with 205 Live. You know, because it has to be in the UK and that. But it's an option. Number 7. Will the champion tour the brands? If you don't plan to do something long term, you don't introduce a championship. You just give the winner of a tournament a trophy or a cup. That's not what WWE did though, and Tyler Bate is your first ever UK title holder. But what now? It seems likely he will have the belt when he competes for Progress or Fight Club Pro, but surely there's something more on the cards here, namely the chance for Bate to pop up on other shows. Why can't he come to Raw, SmackDown or 205 Live? Why can't he have a match on a pay-per-view every now and then? Not only does this help with exposure and shine a light on the UK tournament, but it would serve both Bate and the WWE well. Plus he's under contract, so why not? Otherwise, what's the alternative? He just vanishes. That's no good for anyone. Number 6. What's the relationship with Progress et al? There's no two ways about it. The last few years have seen WWE really open the doors in terms of who they will work with throughout pro wrestling, right down to New Japan stars appearing on NXT shows and the Cruiserweight Classic being dedicated to guys outside the WWE system. WWE already has a relationship with Evolve, Progress and ICW, but how does this affect things long term? Will Triple H want to borrow talent from these organisations for his UK-centric shows? Or will there be a bigger focus in getting these individuals to come on board on a more full-time basis? There's no doubt some kind of symbiotic relationship would do wonders for any and all future plans, but how that maps out at the moment is anyone's guess. Number 5. Can it succeed globally? As you can tell from my voice, I am British. That just made it a lot easier to enjoy the UK tournament because it felt like a big deal for the pro wrestling scene this side of the pond. Whether or not that truly appeals to a wider audience is still up for debate, however. The network numbers will give a good indicator into this, but it's tough to see an American fan tuning in, for example, if they had wanted to watch the NFL playoff game that night. They could check it out on demand when all is said and done, but it's a question we don't know the answer to, even more so when you think about the long-term aspects of a weekly show. Number 4. What are the WWE's motivations? Depending on who you talk to, there's different viewpoints as to why the WWE UK tournament happened in the first place. The cynical approach is that it was to try and introduce proper competition should the recently relaunched World of Sport start to get off the ground. The other is that Triple H understands the value of other promotions succeeding and that expanding in this fashion is mutually beneficial for everyone involved. If pro wrestling gets bigger, the biggest fish in the pond ultimately gets bigger too. That's the WWE. There's more evidence to suggest the latter as well, given how tight the company currently is with many different independent promotions, and how those relationships have only yielded positive results so far. There's certainly some exceptions, but moving ahead with that attitude would do wonders for everyone, especially if World of Sport becomes a proper thing. The winner would be wrestling. Number 3, who will make it to NXT? While a lot of WWE's UK talents are under retainer contracts, that still gives them a pretty good path to NXT should the opportunity come up. Allowing management to assess them on the job almost, they can aid their growth before moving them to developmental as and when the time is right. That's an opportunity that's never existed before, and one that sounds downright spiffing. So, who is on the list to head overseas? You have to be mad to argue that Pete Dunne isn't ready for such a spot, and Mark Andrews, Trent Seven and Tyler Bate himself could all hop over tomorrow without missing a beat. Surely some of these guys are earmarked for a trip to Florida at some point, and how that affects both WWE's own plans and the wider British indie scene is a question only the future can answer. Number 2, will WWE learn from 205 Live? We're all right to be excited about a WWE British show, because it would be awesome. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't look at other elements and try and learn from them, especially 205 Live. The newly founded Cruiserweight division and television follow-up didn't come rocketing out the gates like many had hoped, and it's only been in recent weeks that things have started to feel like they're headed in the right direction. The addition of Neville was essential, but fans are still leaving when SmackDown is over rather than watching 205 Live. It's still finding its feet. Ideally, the same fate wouldn't happen to a UK-based show, but it could very well happen. New ideas such as this take time to settle and find a flow, but leave them too long and people start to sour on them as well. It's a very tough balance to get right, and it's one that needs a lot of time, attention, and care. Number 1, what does this mean for the UK scene? British wrestling is on top of its game at the moment. Nearly every big organisation located within the UK is hitting it out of the park, and there's incredible talent making name for themselves across the world. The buzz is incredible. How WWE's new presence here affects all that is what we now need to know. Some worry that it may start to steal a lot of the thunder, especially if show dates clash, or more performers are signed up by them and they're not allowed to work for certain promotions. Where such talent pops up is also an unknown. In Progress, Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne are best buds, but during the WWE tournament they warred for the championship. Will stories start to weave throughout the country, or will others be forced to ignore such narratives? Either way, 2017 is going to be a fascinating year for British wrestling, and you'd like to think that if WWE does get heavily involved with it, it'd just be better for everyone. Only time will tell. Know of any other questions we need answering? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You can even follow me on Twitter at SimonMiller316. I'm Simon from What Culture, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Do you love our What Culture Wrestling magazine but wish that you could have even more excellent content covering the hottest, up-to-date stories in the crazy world of pro wrestling? Well, now you can. What Culture Wrestling Weekly features an in-depth look at the biggest story of the week, a rundown of all the major shows, and of course, all that juicy news in the world of pro wrestling. It's all that a hard-working wrestling fan needs to keep up to date with the ever-changing and very exciting business. Adam, you're going to be so busy. How does it feel to be so busy every single week, every week? I'm so tired. Head over to shop.whatculture.com for all the details and pre-order the next edition soon. Well, now, not soon, now.